Ladies and gentlemen, if you're having a hard time climbing in Overwatch, then I have the perfect video for you. I have answers to all the commonly asked questions like, what do I do versus the Smurf? Why can't I improve? And the biggest mistakes you make. And in this video, let's break them all down and give you actionable tips so that you can start popping off in your games right away. Speaking of popping off in your games, if you haven't checked out GameLeap.com, what are you doing? Go check it out right now. Come on back, watch the video, and I hope you enjoy. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So the first question that we have to answer is the commonly asked question, who should I main? This is a question that I get very often, and many people play tons of different characters across 3 different roles. They're having trouble improving, and they're asking, what character should I main? What matters is not who you main, but how much you put time into each player. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later called specialization, but essentially, try not to play every single character in every role. The smaller your hero pool is, the more time you're going to put practicing your mechanical skill, your game sense, and your positioning for that hero, and you're going to improve much faster. It allows you to experience many different situations and further your individual skill at the game through the lens of a select few number of heroes. Play one role primarily and try to play as little as possible amount of heroes, maybe only play about 3 or 4 heroes in your given role. I'm going to break down more about why this is so important later in the specialization section, so stick around till then. Now, the next question that's commonly asked is what to do versus a Smurf. Smurfs are rampant in Overwatch, it feels like. Everyone is buying a Smurf account. People are smurfing, ruining games all over the place. Here is what you need to do against a Smurf. First off, if your goal is to win the game, which it should be, you need to be doing whatever you can to find impact and value up against that Smurf and try to do things specifically to prevent that Smurf from getting value. Maybe there are Doomfist that's in your backline. Playing a character that specifically counters him or playing multiple hard counters as a team can be a way that he has a hard time getting any value. Secondly, try to learn from the Smurf. Watch what they're doing, what their setups are, watch the kill cams, try to figure out exactly what they're doing and why it's working so well, and try to make a plan that actually shuts that down if possible. Now, last but certainly not least, if you tried your best, you try to counter the enemy, and you try to learn from the Smurf to shut him down, but you still can't, realize that not every game is winnable, but you'll be that much better going into your next game, The fact of the matter is, every single person has to be able to beat a certain amount of Smurfs in order to climb. Every single person who's ever climbed a GM has faced hundreds, maybe even thousands of Smurfs along the way, and you might have to as well. Don't let the fact that the enemy is smurfing get in your head, because at the end of the day, not every game is winnable. It's all about improving in the long run. Now, moving on to the statement number 3 that you've probably felt or you might have heard before, but people often say, my teammates don't enable me, they're trash, I can't do anything because of them. Now, in some ways, there's some truth to this that can happen, you know? Overwatch is a team-based game, 6v6. Not every game is going to be winnable if your teammates aren't doing what they need to. But if it's consistently happening every single game, then you're not really doing what you can do to actually have impact anyways. You see, if every single game you needed your team to perfectly enable you in order for you to climb, then where are you in that picture? The thing that you need to understand is that every single game, you're the difference maker. You are the one that can go above and beyond what your teammates normally bring to the table. I've said this before, but it demands reiteration. At the end of the day, the teammates you get are random, but you are the constant. If your teammates are not enabling you in the way for you to play in one play style, switch it up. If you're playing a character that demands to be enabled in order to get value, then swap off. Whatever you have to do to win the game is what you should strive for. Once you start to climb by adaptation, eventually you will run across teammates that can enable you in the proper way, and then you can play the proper game of Overwatch. But until then, you need to make do with what you have. Now, moving on to question number 4, this is one that I get asked a lot, and it's, do I play enough to climb? Many players play only 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, and they say, do I even play enough to actually climb in this game? Is it even worth my time to try? Well, the thing is, while adding more hours can definitely help you climb, what's more important than that is how you use your hours. The biggest problem with a lot of players is rust, and rust forms when you don't play for long periods of time. If you only play on the weekends, for example, throughout the week, your rust is building up all throughout Monday through Friday. And then finally, when you play many hours, you're not even going to be playing close to what your peak was when you stopped playing at the end of the weekend. You need to be playing at your peak performance in order to actually expand it. Think of it like a muscle where you need to be pushing yourself to the limit in order for your muscles to break down and be built stronger. It's the same way with actually your skill. If you're always playing rusty, you're not improving. You're just breaking off rust. And what I would suggest you do is try to play at least a little bit every single day if possible. It's far better in my mind to play 30 minutes each day and then maybe play 4 hours over the weekend than just lump all your hours together, make it 8 hours over the weekend, and play none throughout the week. That's going to just build up rust, and it's going to make a lot of your practice time effectively useless. Now moving on to question number 5, this is a really common sentiment and a question. It says, if I just hit more shots, will that make me rank up? Well, yes and no. This is really common, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in the why can I improve section. But hitting more shots will definitely help you rank up, of course. If you hit more headshots, you hit more heals, you hit more hooks, these are things that could definitely make you rank up. But more often than not, this is not what's holding people back. The thing that you need to understand is it's very possible to rank up without doing any of these things. Without being mechanically crazy or insane, without having any of these factors, it's very possible to rank up. The thing is, think about improving your mechanical skill like improving the performance of your tools. Say you upgrade your car's engine or something like that as an analogy. Just because the engine is better, just because it performs better and has a higher top speed, doesn't mean you're going to be able to drive or outrace people that know how to drive better than you, right? It's the same way in Overwatch. The fundamental skill carries you far more game sense positioning than your mechanics ever will. And that's a big problem. That's why you see players like Shroud come to Overwatch with insane mechanical aim and get placed plat. It's not because Shroud's a bad gamer by any stretch of the imagination, or he has bad mechanics compared to Overwatch players. Oh no, he still has some of the best mechanics in the world. The problem is, mechanics only get you so far. Mechanics are only a baseline. And to say that they are the end-all be-all is something that a lot of people misunderstand. Now moving on to question number 6, this is another question that I get asked, is players that acknowledge they have bad mechanics, but they say, what are some easy ways to climb with poor mechanics, comparatively to other players around my rank? So there are 3 big ways in my mind to climb if you know you have poor mechanics. And of course you could work on your mechanics, but that's going to take a while. But here are the 3 ways to climb even without any mechanics, hardly. You can 1, duo and spam a combo of abilities or ultimates, you know, Nano Blade over and over and over again, grab dragon, you know, suck hook with Orisa. There's a lot of different duo combos or ultimates that you can just spam that essentially don't take that much mechanical skill to execute, and they get so much value. There's no reason not to do these for free value. The second thing you could do is to hard counter enemy picks, swapping to something like Sombra against a Hammond, swapping to something like Brig against a Tracer. Hard countering moves it further along to the rock, paper, scissors game sense battle as opposed to a mechanical one. You could battle people with your kits and your toolkits rather than battle people on a mechanical playing field. You're not playing Widow free-for-all, you're not playing CSGO. You can challenge people with the game sense of the game and fight people on that axis instead of fighting people in the mechanical realm. Now, the last thing that you could do to climb easily with poor mechanics is pick one person on your team, anybody, and try to enable them throughout the game. That's all you need to do, and it's really simple, but you'd be surprised how little you might do this in your games. Look at your McCree, maybe you're a support, look at your McCree. Just follow them around, do whatever you have to enable them to be more successful. Maybe you're a DPS, and instead of going and trying to DPS and run around the map and flank, find your tank or find your support and do whatever you can to allow them to do their job better. This is a way where you combine the resources of you and a teammate, work better together than you ever would separately, and you almost force that interaction. It's going to allow you to get way more impact. Now moving on to question number 7. This is a big one, but I commonly get asked this, and it's, why can't I improve? Typically, it's a spent time problem that we talked about earlier, called specialization, where the biggest thing that I see right off the bat is that players will just play every single hero. They'll be playing like 10 plus heroes. They'll be putting like 10 hours a week into the game, and they'll be splitting it among like maybe 30 minutes a different hero. You're never going to improve like that. You're just going to be spending your time so poorly. And then some people will only play 1 day a week or something like that. And it's just going to make it so that your improvement is very, very slow. Specialization. In my mind, the less time you play the game, the more time you need to specialize if you actually want to give your shot at improvement. Now, another problem that I see often is a misevaluation of your own weakness. A common theme among players, specifically around the gold to plat rank, is that they think that they're only in that rank due to poor mechanics. I've actually VOD reviewed personally some Widow and McCree players that had insane mechanics. I mean, mechanics just as good as some Masters players and probably almost as good as some GM players. They had crazy mechanics and they spent all day, every day just in triad free-for-all trying to improve their mechanics. But at the same time, they would be taking way too aggressive flanks. They wouldn't value their life. life, and they would just essentially not make a smart decision throughout the game over and over and over again. Now, this is an apparent misevaluation of what your weakness is. You think your weakness is one thing, so you put all your time and effort into furthering that thing, but it's all these other things that you think you're already good at, and it's actually making it so you're not practicing what actually could help you improve. So what I would highly suggest you do is self-VOD review first of all. Watch your own VODs. Just watch and try to keep an open mind about what are you doing right, what are you doing wrong, where are the visible mistakes that you can see, and that can help you find a lot of insight in your own play, maybe reveal something you never knew before. The second thing I could suggest you do, if all else fails, is go try to find someone that could VOD review you. That could give you an open perspective, and it could give you a new set of eyes that can really show you, hey, maybe it's not my mechanics, or hey, maybe it's not my positioning that's the problem, maybe it's this, or maybe it's this, and that will really help you improve. It helps you find what your actual problem is and what is actually preventing you from improving. Now moving on to the 8th and final question that I have for you is, what are the biggest mistakes that players make and don't realize? The first and biggest mistake that I've seen is that they don't value their own life, or they don't put value into them just existing. So what I mean by that is, if you're alive, you could turn team fights, you can combo ultimates, you can build ult charge, you can contest enemies. More often than not, a player's positioning actually reflects a complete lack of care about their own personal life. They think, hey, if I have 30 kills this game, but I've died 29 times, I still have a high kill count, I still have gold medals, but that doesn't matter. The thing that you need to understand is, what is actually important is having the least amount of deaths as possible. You should aim to only die when your team is actually full resetting. You shouldn't be the first one to die hardly ever, and you shouldn't be throwing your life away for potentially trading a kill. If you trade your life with someone, the amount of value you get is finite. It's 1 for 1. But if you do your best to stay alive, the value you could potentially get later on in the fight or in a retake is infinite. So do yourself a favor, value your own life immensely more than you're doing right now. That's the biggest mistake I see. The second thing is, a lot of players don't understand the concept of playing for their ultimate or waiting for their ultimate. If you are 80% to your ultimate and the enemy is about to cap a point, or you're about to have a big team fight, there's no point in being really aggressively and try to make a crazy play, because instead you can keep poking for your ultimate and then make a play with that. The thing is, if you die and lose a point when you're at 99% before you ever got a chance to use your ultimate, you're not giving yourself a fair shake at actually winning the point. Give yourself the advantage by just waiting it out, poking it out, and then playing off your ultimates. That's a way that you're guaranteed to get a lot more value. Now, the third thing corresponds with that, and it's players getting way too greedy with their ultimates. You need to keep in mind that if you have to be so greedy that you need to get 5 or 6 kills with your ultimate, you probably shouldn't have used your ultimate at all unless you plan on switching. Try to think about how many players you actually would need to kill with your ultimate to actually win it. Maybe it's only 1 or 2. Then only go for those 1 or 2 kills and try to get those in the bag and win the fight that way. If you need to do a 5-man Dragon Blade, just save that Dragon Blade for another fight. Do not try to be the hero and try to clutch every single point. That's going to be a way that you just waste your ultimate and don't get any value really effectively. Now, the last mistake that I see very often, especially when I VOD review people, is a panic response to enemies' ultimates, enemies' actions, or things like touching a point. How many times has a Symmetra teleported on point and your teammates have run one at a time to go to the point and died one at a time? That happens all the time, and that comes down to a knee-jerk reaction. Maybe a Tracer touches the point, and then your Reinhardt goes back to point to try to contest her, and then the choke is completely open. The problem is, you need to level head even more in these panic scenarios. Maybe when the enemy Genji blades, or maybe when the enemy comes in with Whole Hog, or anything like that. You need to have the most possible level head in those scenarios. And if you allow yourself to panic out of control, you're just going to make mistakes, do things out of your character that is actually going to throw the game for you, doesn't give you a shot at actually clutching up or shutting down the enemy. Anyways, if you want more high quality improvement guides, do yourself a favor, go head over to GameLeap.com, and I guarantee that you'll find something that will definitely help you improve. Anyways, I've done my best to answer some of the common questions that you have, but if you have any more questions about what you need to do to improve at Overwatch, definitely let me know in the comments down below. That's all I got for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.